So starting the STOXX 50, it's March 9th. ABM Bev, look, we're kind of seeing this over the last few weeks. This 60-ish, it's a bit above, but 61 has buffered all the moves over the past few years. Look, it's probably not interesting until it's above there. Back into this range, the moving average is there, but look, it's all sideways. The relative's drifty. It's fine. I don't think it's there's not a lot of action in it. Above 60, it looks different, but we need to get back there. A-hold, this does look better. Like, obviously you're seeing good moves in Costco, Walmart, Kroger in the US, and this is maybe just a bit forgotten about in that context. The relative versus the STOXX 50 wouldn't inspire you, but this reaction is pretty good. So we'll see if we can get above this moving average, which is up to 28.50, and if it does, then that kind of the top end of this range, 31, probably comes into play. So I think it looks better than some, and definitely within staples is an option. Adidas, much better than Nike, to be fair, but it's still trapped in or around this 200, well, it's 190, 200 area. It just hasn't really got above it. Above there, it is more interesting. If we know from the Dow report that the Nike's kind of come down here, so they're just a little bit out of play. I think there's something in them later in the year, but just need to see that price movement. Maybe it comes quicker. Adyen, this still looks like it wants to go higher, not lower. Some follow through. That group in the States has been better recently, and I would think that this should get to this sort of 1700 area, and that's a much bigger resistance spot. But the swiftness of this move back is what's interesting, and tells you there's still some power behind it. So this area here looks like it should happen, which is up to 1700, and if it doesn't, you would think that this block of support down here is going to be pretty secure. So it looks okay, but obviously loads of gaps, so it's still a bit tricky. Air Liquide, new high on the week, extended this move. We've said it a few times in over the years. It's just a quality compounder, and it still looks like it wants higher over time. Airbus also acted well on the week. Just shows you, look, the market is not just your Nvidias and AMDs, which are stellar, but there's definitely other things going on, and this is a good signal. And again, you contrast it with Boeing in the Dow report. They're just chalk and cheese, and I think that this gap between the two of them widens further the longer Boeing's issues continue. Airbus capitalizes, and this to me looks very early still in its development. Allianz, really good week. We talked about this last time. This is what we wanted to see. It was a bit jittery around earnings, but we know from the US peers that it's very strong as a group, and it's an encouraging move on the week. The relative look is nothing to be inspired by, but price action at the absolutes definitely something that's eye-catching. So we hopefully that continues. ASML, look, it's going to do. If obviously semis were weak on Friday after like a phenomenal run, so some pause would not be a bad thing at all. I mean, the way this relative is shipped, it's just above the 2021 relative high. It's not materially higher in the context of where it was in 2021 in itself. So I think be very surprised if pullbacks aren't opportunities. So one to keep close watch on. BASF is kind of steadily improving without being spectacular, and not one that really ever interests us. Bayer, same, hints of a bottoming type candle, but there's been plenty of those. BBVA, strong week, new highs, absolute and relative. There is resistance above, so it might get trickier, but financials are doing fine. BMW sort of balked to here at the first attempt at this prior high from earlier the year. Needs a push now to get it above it, but a decent trend, not bad. Danone, probably should have acted a bit better on this. I mean, we thought this spike back was going to be a selling opportunity, and it has kind of come back into this area. The relative is still weak. I would just say the opportunity it had up here at 64 to go and extend is missed now, and now we're just into, again, just whatever potential recovery is just delayed. So hard to see it outperforming. BNP, a bit like the rest of the banks, we'll see it later now with some of the others, has got back above this gap. Now it's not, it's still weaker than the others because others are better, but just a good indication of maybe where the strength is in that group. There's definitely buyers for banks at the moment. AXA, same as Allianz, strong and has good momentum, finished the week well. Deutsche Börse didn't quite kick on the week, but still think that this has got more. The only slight worry is this relative, which just isn't firing as you'd like, but we'll see if that changes. The absolute would certainly keep you in it. Vinci, nice week, consolidating up here, this sort of range. I think the longer that develops, the better. We've maybe had, what is it? Yes, December to here, so 2 or 3 months. If that can make a new high now, I think there's probably room. It's maybe gone sideways for long enough. DHL, kind of marked this out last week, and just noted that it's a lot weaker than the others. The relative was weaker long before it, and it's no surprise that this has gone the other way. You would think maybe FedEx is going to be something similar, but this definitely looks like it'll come back here to 36, probably comes back here to 35, and test those lows. So yeah, again, a good kind of, this is a really good tell when they're weaker, when the market's stronger, and no bounce even in these good little spots just tells you that there's still doubt around it. So it was a good tell from the charts. Deutsche Telekom, above the moving average, but just slow, nothing to action. Essilor, again, this has been really, really good. Neat break above the 190, extended. Very few sellers up here, which is good to see. The thinking here was this would be a meta type play, or derivative of meta. That seems to be working. Like, it's even better than some of the luxury names, which should be closer peers. So you'd hope that like the moving average will probably play a bit of catch up now, but as long as it doesn't start giving too much of this back, it's going to look like a very interesting short to medium term name. NL, good bounce here. We'll see it again with some of the other ones later, but kind of a good first move. We'll see if it can build on it next week, but certainly an eye catcher and one to look a bit closer at. ENI, if we recall from the kind of the last few weeks, we've been just saying that these energy names are back into spots where you want to see a reaction. I would say we've seen early days of at least a promising start. So like, they haven't run away, but you've held the moving averages. They dipped below them and got back above, which is a good sign. And they're holding in big areas, so that's a good start. So let's just see now if that builds next week. Iberdrola, same as NL, reacted where you would hope it would react. Probably might have preferred a bit lower, but we'll see. Infineon, this looks vulnerable because, as we've kind of been saying, it's missed a very, very good period for the sector. If that group pauses or it goes sideways, I can't see this outperforming in that context. So just that would be a slight worry for Infineon as we move through. ING, this is a very, very good setup. We've been saying for the last few weeks that, look, it's really tightening up into this area up here. It has now shrugged off this move. It's back up into this 1350. This definitely is one to watch in the next few weeks. It's had since 2022. It's had kind of 5-6 goes at getting above and staying above, and I'd say this is its best shot now. I think what you would love to see next week is maybe a week open Monday, gets you back here to 13, maybe 13.20, and then you eventually get your follow through at some point. So we'll see next week if that's going to be one that's in play. Intesa obviously has already gone, which is bullish. Inditex, I'd say probably, you can see from the relative, just running out of a little bit of steam. Like, obviously the longer term trend is fine, but you can just see like it's a 20 to 40, maybe just too much too soon. But you would expect it consolidates. Now, retail is always tricky, but like it's the leader in that group. Kering failed at the moving average, always the weakest one in luxury. Maybe it sets it up now like a kind of a, I don't know, kind of an inverted head and shoulders, but you can see it's just got stuck here at this area here, 436. If it gets back above there, I think it looks more interesting and there's probably an action, but we just need to see that. So, one to track a little bit closer, albeit not really a fan of trying to pick these weaker ones. Mercedes-Benz, first look at 76, has come off it, but not much. Really, it's just look, can it get above it? In here, there's actually nothing to do. I don't think it's an accumulate in advance. Maybe it does, but I think you just wait and see if you get that move above it, and if it does, it probably kicks on a better phase, kickstarts a better phase. LVMH, solid, but like we've been saying, it just needs to get above those highs. It's a better name above 900 than it is in this kind of range here, but we'll see. Munich Re, very good, same as Allianz and AXA, albeit 2 years ahead of them. Nordea, okay, looks like it'll have a go at trying to get out above 12. Nokia, not one for us, albeit slightly better price action. L'Oreal, I think you just need to be really patient with this. There's a big move eventually. Really like how it's sort of tightening up below this 436. Maybe we need to spend more time sideways or just in this area, but the longer it does that and the closer it gets to this 465, the more interesting it becomes. So want to keep tracking. Prozus, no, Prozus, still not firing. Yeah, just still waiting for better on that. Let's see if it comes. Ferrari, long-term uptrend. Dips so far have been bought. No reason to doubt that yet, or that changes. Pernod Ricard, slip back again. It's the danger of doing anything below this 200 day. There's lots of these sort of false moves. This is a big move off the low, but the relative is still pretty poor. So, just still a tricky one, and just takes time. If you look back, as we said before, at this one, how many times did it take to get above these moving averages and get going? And we're still very much in that phase. Maybe you're at this point here where you look like you're going back to the lows and you reverse. It's just going to take some time, but so no action yet. Hermes, it's better than LVMH. It's above it, and it's just a stronger option in playing the same theme. Safran, superb all year. This range break has been, again, another great example of how, look, when you make these highs, it's such a pivotal point. The ones that go are generally good, and it's definitely in that camp. Sanofi, big range, still looks like it's lagging. It's lagging the sector. Other names like we know them, the Novos and Lillies, etc., and Merck's even have had big moves higher. It just hasn't. So it needs something to shake it out of this range at the moment. It's just continuing to drift on the relative. Santander, which again, we talked about this for the last few weeks, very very tight here. Got above and now looks into open territory in terms of potential for another move. 455 is not a big stretch from where it is now. The relative has yet to play ball, but really like this. And I think if you go back and look at ING, this is really what you'd be expecting to happen over the next little while. SAP, you're very strong. Like you think of what maybe Microsoft or some of the other like really large peers, they've been stalling. It's kept going, which is a good sign. It's a long way from the breakout point now, and maybe there's a sideways is needed, and we'll just see how they act in that. But I think you'd be certainly shaping up for a decent year and something like that. Saint-Gobain, again outside of the range, a little bit disappointing I think when we zoom in maybe here on the last week, but not disaster either. Like we've kind of this spot down here at 67.60 has kind of held a few times. You'd worry about this candle, like it's probably given back more than you'd want, but it still looks okay. Siemens here, again decent week, popped above this range, trying to extend, so solid, and yeah, good example of, look again, kind of back to that, it's not, there's a few names that are definitely capturing all the attention or the oxygen, but there's others that are working quite nicely. Stellantis, again, probably in that camp of being very strong, trending and extending. Schneider, along with Airbus, probably one of the best names in Europe over the last decade, and continues to work higher. Looks high quality. Total, I'd say this is interesting. Timing wise, these trend lines are in place for a while, really getting close to it. Nice and tight, few kind of higher lows. So I think if you see some follow through next week up here, then 65 is a reasonable target. Relative is, it's a long way off highs. Maybe there's a reaction spot down here, so I think that's definitely one to keep an eye on next week to see if you get that break to the upside. UniCredit, strong. Just been near constant bid. Hard to doubt it here. It's more extended than lots of the others. Obviously a Santander and ING has a huge amount of catch-up potential if it can get into one of those type of trend phases. Volkswagen, which we've kind of had this on as a interesting name, disappointing. Sorry, let me just go back to there. Disappointing that it didn't hold the gains. It's not a disaster. Like I think we said, look, if it got back to 116 and held, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You'd be still working off this support here, but there's still, look, it's disappointing that this hasn't been better. So we'll see next week if it can hold down here. It is a big move for something like it off the lows. It's trying to bottom, so we give it a bit more time. But I guess that last little relative wouldn't inspire confidence, but still. And last is Wolters Kluwer. Look, just a very strong long-term trend, and hard to doubt it. So yeah, I think a useful quick run through. Obviously the banks look interesting, ING, Santander, see if there's another push in those. The energy names look interesting, Eni and Total kind of back into big spots, and I think we'll probably see next week if those follow through.